Hi, I'm John Weeks. This is On the Scales, weighing in with model railroaders, and we're here at retired Navy Captain Steve O'Brien's home. He has a model railroad inside, which has some unique features to it. We're going to go inside and see what's going on. So follow me. Hi, Steve O'Brien.
That's me.
I'm John Weeks. We talked on the phone about you and your railroad.
Yes.
And so here we are. We want to see it. Is it a good day to come in?
Today is a great day.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, follow us. This here is the Sierra and Malarkey Railroad, and you're going to be surprised about this, and you might enjoy it. I'm going to have fun doing it. Steve?
Yes, sir.
This is your layout, and you operate it like this, real big person looking down at everything. What would you say if we could actually get down there into your layout and do it that way?
I'd love it.
He's nervous. I'm nervous too, because this is something that we haven't tried before. It's it's new. We're going to go right down here, and then we're going to travel on the railroad in that size throughout the whole layout. And this will be an adventure not only for you guys, but for us too. So, Steve, if you're ready, and 1, 2, snap! Oh, I knew that was going to work, but this isn't the way I thought it would work. Where are you, Steve? Well, there you are.
Hi,
How
John.
was that? How'd you like that little trip we just made?
It's amazing.
And you know what? We're in downtown Oakdale, and Oakdale's all the way over there. We're right next to the depot. We're in the street crossing. And so, Steve, in Oakdale, it's not just the Sierra Railroad, but it's also 2 other railroads?
Well, at least one. The Southern Pacific comes north and south. North of here is Stockton, south of here is Merced. And the Sierra started 1898 and headed east into the Sierras, first of all to get a hold of the business from mining and the mining equipment, but beyond that, the huge, amazing forestry product reserves beyond that.
Okay, so in Oakdale, that was the only connection the Sierra had with, quote unquote, the outside world.
Right, and on the far end, of course, they eventually ended up with the West Side Lumber Company and the Pickering and the Standard Lumber.
But in Oakdale, didn't the Santa Fe come in also besides Santa Fe?
West.
Okay.
And so this is the beginning of the Sierra, and it's all tied together.
We're going to take a little train trip. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down in the railroad, and we're going to have fun. So, Steve, I understand there's something unique about your layout. Why don't you tell the folks at home what's going on?
Well, unlike most layouts, it's actually finished, and it's been finished for like 10 years. Although you work on little projects here and there, and there's always something to do. But by and large, all the locomotives are there that are going to be there. All the cars are there, and the operation plan is followed almost the same year after year, although from day to day it changes. And these trains just don't run around. They go somewhere and they do something when they get there. There's a switch list for the operator to go by. And the only thing we don't do is we don't put them on a timetable.
So, I asked the question what was unique, and guess what? I didn't get the answer I was hoping for.
wow.
Well, Steve, that's pretty far down, Steve.
I know.
What the hell are they doing down there?
I would hate to have to go to work the way these guys did on the end of a cable
Yeah.
every morning. Get you.
And they're building a dam down there?
They're building Hetch Hetchy Dam, the first part of it, or the second part.
Oh, wow. Well, what was the dam built for?
They wanted to dam the water in Hetch Hetchy Valley, and they've been providing electricity and water to San Francisco and the Bay Area for all these years. And of course, John Muir had a fit that they were going to build the dam right in the middle of the national park. But politics prevailed, and it was done.
Well, as you can see in the film, it's a fur piece down there, and I'm getting I can feel gravity tugging at me, so we're going to step away and continue on the trip.
All right.
Yep, here we go. Jamestown, here we are.
That's right. This was the home headquarters of the Sierra for the whole time she ran.
Really, Jamestown? I thought it was Oakdale.
Well, that shifted down there, not so much the headquarters, but just at least the shops, because they put the diesel repair shop in Oakdale.
Okay. So here we are in Jamestown, ladies and gentlemen, and behind us you can probably see this really pretty yellow painted hotel. And what's the name of this hotel?
This is the Neville's Hotel.
And it started when?
1898. At that time, this was end of track, and this was like a 4-star hotel. It's here because a guy named Captain Neville's decided that people would ride the train from San Francisco down to Jamestown, stay overnight in his hotel, and then go on to Yosemite.
How would they get to Yosemite?
The rest of it had to be by coach in those days.
That would have been fun, ladies and gentlemen. Stagecoach to Yosemite on dirt roads. I bet they didn't do that in the wintertime.
I was going to tell you that this whole hotel with 56 rooms and a 4-star restaurant, etc., ended up costing $18,000. And it took them only 6 months to build it.
$18,000, ladies and gentlemen. My automobile costs more than that. So, and other than the hotel here at Jamestown, what else is significant of its being here?
Well, this was the headquarters for the Sierra Railroad, particularly during the steam era, and it is still here today. The turntable's still here. The roundhouse is still here. It's called Jamestown State Historic Park.
And the railroad's still here.
The railroad's still here, and she operates from Oakdale all the way through to a place called Fassler, which is the other side of Sonora.
Okay. We're at Angels Camp. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about when someone says Angels Camp? Why, frogs. Frogs? Why frogs? Well, the annual frog jump at Angels Camp. Mark Twain wrote about it. Steve, we're at Angels Camp, and I don't think the railroad was built here just because of the frogs, so tell me, why?
You know, not only was it a big thing to get here, but it was extremely difficult because they had to go all the way down the Stanislaus River Canyon and up the other side, and it required switchbacks. But anyway, the reason they came here was the same reason as they went into the Sierra east of Sonora. They went after the mines and the products of the mines, but then there were tremendous lumber resources behind that. They were after the lumber around big trees. And unfortunately, after they built it all to get here, why Big Trees was made into a park, and most of the lumber industry up there just faded away.
So there you go. Lumber. Lumber was a big thing back in the 1800s, by far, and a lot of mountains and hillsides were denuded because of the lumber. Grass Valley, Nevada City being a prime example of that. Now, let's see. I was going to say something.
Well, before you say that, I was just going to say that the big money behind the Sierra Railroad were the guys in real estate, and they were buying up, thousands and thousands of acres of lumber resources, and then they weren't worth that much because you couldn't get the lumber out. But once the railroad showed up, why then that property went up in value, tenfold.
Well, there you go. A means to the end for the capitalists. Get the trees, to get the money, you got to have a railroad. And the side note that I couldn't remember was that Steve mentioned the fact that there was switchbacks. For those of you who don't know railroad terminology, think zigzag. It's the same thing. And with that, we're going to go from here, Angels Camp, leave the frogs in the ponds, and we're going to go back to Jamestown. And from Jamestown, we're going to finish out our trip all the way to Tuolumne. With that, highball. Mighty fine country out there. We're out of Sonora and we're heading on our way to Tuolumne. I think it's really pretty out there, don't you think?
True.
Yeah, nice place to have a railroad. Now, I hear that we're going to be stopping shortly, a brief stop at Standard on the way to Tuolumne. Something about money. What money up here in the foothills got to do with anything? What is that all about, Steve?
What they're going to do is drop off the pay for the Standard Lumber Company employees, which is a huge company that built their mill in the town of Standard. And from there, they have a railroad that went at one time 70 miles back into the woods to get the lumber out. So later on, the Standard Lumber Company was bought out by Pickering, and so that's when you hear about the Pickering Railroad.
I see.
And then we're going to go on to Tuolumne. And at Tuolumne, that's the home of the West Side Lumber Company, which was narrow gauge and had its own 96 miles of railroad at one time.
That's a lot of railroad, and that's a lot of trees that disappeared just so they could build buildings, shore up mines, and Lord knows what else they did with the stuff. Burned a lot of it too, I bet you. Now, okay, so let's see. Back in Oakdale, we were talking about Southern Pacific Santa Fe coming to Oakdale, and that was the way the Sierra got its equipment in and out of its domain. And I would imagine sometimes they ran short of locomotives, and that's why they borrowed from Santa Fe and Southern Pacific, huh?
Yeah, not too often, but both of them at times had trains that ran all the way through.
And then there was a particular locomotive that was bought because they needed bigger locomotives and they thought this one would work well. What was that?
Near the end of the run in the 50s, the Sierra had needed larger and larger engines and went to 280s and 282s, very large. And even at that, they had a double head trains up the hill. So they wanted one steam locomotive that could do the whole thing. So the idea was to buy a 2662, which turned out to be number 38. It was so large they couldn't turn it on the turntables. So they had to only use the Ys, for instance, at Cooperstown. So a lot of times when that train was running, the engine was running backwards. And after 2 years, they kind of decided it was just not working, and they shifted over to buying diesel locomotives.
Steam and diesel never mix, just like water and oil. So it's been a fine trip. The scenery is great. But I want to know, what in the world got you interested in modeling the Sierra Railroad?
As a kid, I saw the movie The Great Locomotive Chase, which was a single-track main. And that just fascinated me. And later on, climbing into different locomotives, I found out that I was only comfortable in the smaller ones. So here comes the Sierra, single-track main with small locomotives. And I just got fascinated with it. And the more I read about it, the more I got from the Tuolumne Historical Society, the more I got a chance to go up to Jamestown Historic Park and work as a docent. It just grew. So yeah, it just grew.
And here we are, a layout that's been around for 10 years. It's complete, folks. No, it's not adding anything. You might repair stuff along the way here and there, but that's it. It's complete. And we're getting close to Tuolumne, and so I think I'm going to look out the window and enjoy the countryside until we come down the hill into the good town of Tuolumne. What do you think?
Okay.
All right, look at those trees. Now, the big problem is we got to get us back to our regular size and out of this layout because, it'll be fun, but I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my life down here because all the food is plastic and that doesn't taste very good. So I'm going to snap my fingers and we're going to go back to normal. Wow, it works, but still, oh, there you are. That's pretty weird. How'd you like that trip?
Well, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back full size.
I've been saying, being back to full size now after being small for so long time, my stomach's bigger and it's saying, feed me, I'm hungry. This is the Sierra Railroad, but you call it the Sierra and Malarkey Railroad. Why the Malarkey? I know you're Irish.
Well, the thing is, I just got a hold of making the idea of 15 different scenes from the Sierra Railroad. And so those scenes are fairly accurate, but everything that happens in between is totally malarkey. As an example, the Sierra had no tunnels. The Sierra and Malarkey has 5.
Well, there you go. So that's part of railroad modeling. It's kind of like poetry in a sense.
Yes.
You just adjust things as you need to in order to make it fit. And in this little corner of the empire, of course, behind the camera is Oakdale, where we started our trip. And over here we have Sonora, which is part of the route.
This is a good example of mixing things. This was a commercial kit. This was scratch built because I love the idea that the cars went, in under a weather hood. This is the famous depot at Sonora, and this is the lime saddle or lime spur lime deposit triple, and it actually comes from about a mile down the road. But anyway, it all works, and it's pretty close in operation to the way it really was.
Is that depot still in existence today?
No, she burned down somewhere in the 20s, I guess. I think I have a picture of her, 1935, so it had to be after that. What's there now is the Tuolumne County Hospital.
Oh, okay. So, Steve, in wanting to create all of this as accurately as possible, has actually been physically gone on safari up into the foothills to follow the Sierra Railroad to find a lot of these locations to see what's still there and what isn't. So that's
what kind of got me going was that the Sierra still exists and you can still ride it, not only walk along where it used to be, but you can still go and get a cab ride on different parts of it. So plus there's all the information from the Tuolumne Historical Society, books written about it, magazine articles. It's just so much more interesting than to me than making something up in my head, that doesn't have any realism to it.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff here, 15 scenes in all, and a lot of malarkey in between.
Absolutely true.
There's nothing wrong with malarkey as long as you have the right Guinness to go with it.
And a pair of tall rubber boots.
So the models that you have, you must have gotten pictures. Were there pictures you took yourself of buildings that still exist, or pictures from references in the Historical Society and whatnot?
Most of the pictures I would build the models from came from historical photographs, but then I would go back out, and take my own pictures from different angles. The best models are the ones that I actually was able to find the plans for.
Okay, which ones would they might have been?
The biggest one was the Neville's Hotel.
Neville's Hotel. Remember the Neville's Hotel we went to? The big yellow building? It was built in Jamestown just because the guy had money and wanted to get people up there. Yeah, that Neville Hotel is way on the other side of the layout over in that direction. Can't see it from here because it's hiding behind Hetch Hetchy. Anything else you want to tell us about this railroad?
The reason for this is because you have fantastic control of your engines. And as you can see, here's all the guts in a very small 22 scale foot tender. And what we have in there is the following. There's a battery that runs everything. There's a battery controller which lets you recharge the battery through the tracks if you want. And then this, of course, is the miniature speaker. And then over here is the decoder and the receiver for the radio signals you're going to send to it through the air. There's no need for a DCC command and control center, and there's no need for ever cleaning your tracks, and there's no need to ever clean your wheels, and the control you have of your engines is 20 times better than any other way to operate them.
Have we not already covered?
No, I think that's about it.
Tell us about that little dinky orange engine over here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this little dinky engine, which was a small diesel engine for the Hetch Hetchy Railroad, and the Hetch Hetchy Railroad shut down, and 10 years after that, a friend of mine named Al Rose, got a bunch of guys together, and they actually started this thing up, and then they had Sierra Coach number 6 nearby, so they took it for a trip all the way from there to Mather, which was about 40 miles. And there is the picture that I built the model from. In this case, the engine is too small to accept the battery-powered mechanism, so everything is in the coach, in the following coach. But this thing is it's just a kick and a half to operate. But it really happened. They really did go 40 miles from Groveland up to Mather. And if anything had happened and it stalled and they couldn't get it restarted, they would have gotten to walk out through wilderness. Probably would have taken them 2 days. Anyway, that's the story behind 1171.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sierra and Malarkey Railroad. Good old Steve likes to be called SOB. Has to do with his name, not what people think of him. His railroad is the Sierra Railroad, pretty much to scale. Maybe not exactly the way it was laid out, but it has a lot of everything that the Sierra Railroad had and still has. So not only is it a great railroad to operate, even though it's point to point, it's a great railroad for historical purposes, because a lot of these buildings in Scratch Built were replicas of the buildings that were still there, and in a few instances still are there. It's a wonderful, wonderful layout. It's got its own home. It's got a great owner, a great creator, and a wonderful person to allow us to come in here and film all of this splendor. So I hope you enjoyed the trip that we've taken you on. And, you know, if you get curious, drive up into the foothills and try and find the Sierra Railroad between Oakdale and points further south, up in the foothills. Highway 49, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I say that'll do, and we're going to break for lunch. Hey, on behalf of all the miniature people, imaginary people that have run the Sierra Railroad, thank you for coming. They were a mighty cheap group, too. We didn't pay them anything.